You are listening to Zimbabwe News. Keep listening to Zimbabwe News.
Sport, Wawa confident of bouncing back from a 6-0 drubbing at the hands of FC Platinum last weekend.
Ian Zoma will join us later for an update on those proceedings.
In our first story, President Emmerson Mnangagwa says tourism is one of the industries that will benefit from the historical sites and monuments.
Unveiling the Mbuyane National Monument in Harare this Tuesday, Comrade Mnangagwa outlined the benefits of national monuments and statues. Our chief correspondent Ruben Barwe gives us more.
When one visits some of Zimbabwe's tourist resorts like Matopo Hills, one bumps into tourists coming from all over the world, wanting to visit Rhodes' grave. Pupu, where Alan Wilson Patrol Unit was accounted for by General Mchani Khumalo in 1893, is also a place of interest for tourists. In Rwanda, the sites of 1994 genocide are places of interest to many people visiting that country. Mulungushi Rock of Authority in Zambia is a tourist place. Zimbabwe has many places such as Gonakudzingwa Restriction Camp, Sikombela, Wawa Detention Centers as places of interest. The President, Comrade Emmerson Mnangagwa, says such sites are places the National Tourism Recovery and Growth Strategy can benefit from.
The presence of this monument here in Harare, along with the Museum of African Liberation, will have a far-reaching impact on tourism in this province. Hence, the local authority is challenged to reimagine the ambience of this city, informed by the ongoing quest to modernize both our rural and urban environs. Stakeholders in the culture and the creative cultural industry in particular are urged to be innovative and develop contemporary mediums of telling our revolutionary past and also popularizing the new socio-economic development epoch the nation has entered under the Second Republic.
He said the creative culture industry had demonstrated singleness of purpose, that it saw the successful implementation of purpose, that it saw successful implementation of this project. He said the creative culture industry had demonstrated singleness of purpose, that it saw the successful implementation of this project. The seat of Harare and the public were asked to give the monument the respect it deserves. Ruben Barwe, ZBC News, Harare.
The Mbuyane statue has turned out to be a center of attraction in the Harare Central Business District after the national monument was unveiled by the President, Comrade Emmerson Mnangagwa. The details.
Day after the unveiling ceremony of the national monument, scores of people from all walks of life were seen trying to get a glimpse of the latest center of attraction in the capital city. The people hailed the splendid architectural works demonstrated by local engineers and sculptors.
Excellent. Because patterns what paradise what statue shamuyani and taitoti pamwe amene kune imwe nyika kwa chitikuita se kwa chitikugadzirwa but kana chisimudzirwa nevakuru vedu vemuno vachitiratidza matalenda awayo vatinofara zvikuru tinongoencourage kune vamwe vangu vechidiki kuti kune vese vane matalenda akadai izvo takuchiziva direction yekuchienda kuti tikanoona vamutasa vanotidzidzisa kuti tigosvika pavakasvika apa.
Tiri kuti kana zviri zvinhu zvokuti vanhu vachabva kunyika dzakasiyana siyana, it's now a tourist attraction. Vanhu vakuuya kuzoona that sculpture iyo Mbuyane vedu ivava vachauya vachizoona vachiisawo mari munyika.
ZBC News caught up with one of the supervisors of the project and sculptor of the statue.
There's a sculptor behind the statue. I feel great. And I feel greatly honored. You know, I mean, I always say I owe a lot to my president because he has done me good by accepting to commission me to do such a great work.
This is in the part of the bridge. Then all materials they were local, and they are now momo.
While workers are sprucing up the construction site, observers feel government should continue to harness the vast talent in the country to attain Vision 2030. Tentai Munengwa, ZBC News, Harare.
Raving reviews on the Mbuyane monument from the public. Now, in our top story, one of Zimbabwe's greenfield mining projects commissioned by the Second Republic is progressing well, with the construction of a pilot plant at the mine site at an advanced stage. Owen Mandova gives us more.
The purpose of this pilot plant is to process lithium ore, whose quality will be assessed by the off-takers or customers of the final lithium product. And the information from this pilot plant will be used in the design of the actual big commercial lithium plant.
November 2018 saw the commissioning of the Arcadium lithium mine by President Emmerson Mnangagwa after Australian investors Prospect Resources came on board. Significant progress has so far been made, with works to construct a pilot plant at the mine site currently underway. Arcadium lithium mine General Manager Trevor Bernard told ZBC News that everything is in place to meet the project deadlines.
The next step is then obviously once we've achieved the customer qualification tests, which we have no doubt, then we would further the project by finalizing our feasibility study. The feasibility study is being done independently currently with Lycopodium, in engineering consultancy, which are very experienced in the lithium space. And once we've got that feasibility study issued to the market, that would then be used to source the funding to actually start building the commercial plant.
Operations at the Goromonzi-based mine will be open cast, with contractors already extracting lithium ore to be fed into the pilot plant.
Years of exploration and subsequent lab tests confirmed the existence of vast lithium deposits here. And once this plant goes online, it will rank in the top 5 lithium producers in the world. Owen Mandova, ZBC News, Arcadium lithium mine in Goromonzi.
Still focusing on the mining sector, Masvingo is set to contribute to the envisaged $12 billion mining industry in 2 years' time, with a $70 million United States dollar chrome smelting plant being constructed in Mashawa.
Jing Smelting Company, located in Mashawa, is a joint venture between the Zimbabwe Defense Forces and a Chinese company. The construction of the plant began last year in March, and the first phase of the project is expected to be complete by September this year. The $70 million United States dollar project is expected to be a major boost to Masvingo's mining sector.
We actually started our cooperation with the Ministry of Defense since 2014. We already had 2 projects in Wange, coking plant and thermal power plant. This is the 3rd company.
Masvingo's Minister of State for Provincial Affairs and Devolution, Honorable Ezra Chadzamira, says the chrome smelting plant is one of the biggest projects being implemented in the province under the new dispensation. The new plant will also cater for small-scale miners in Masvingo, who currently have to ferry their ore to Rishavani and Kwekwe for smelting.
As Masvingo province, we are targeting the mining sector as one of the sector which is going to build more on our provincial inclusive economic growth, where we are looking to contribute immensely to the national GDP.
The chrome plant is expected to contribute $60 million United States dollars to Masvingo's annual gross domestic product. 3 new gold mines and a diamond mining venture are also on the cards in Masvingo province. Josephine Mugio, ZBC News, Masvingo.
We continue with our deep dive into the country's mining industry, which is well on course to play its economic developmental role with a number of mining projects underway.
Revolution for the envisaged $12 billion US dollar mining industry in 2 years' time is being led by projects such as Prospect Lithium in Goromonzi, Karo Resources in Mondoro, Great Dyke Investments in Darendale, Bravura in Selu, and Eureka Gold Mine in Gruwe. The economic causal effect of mining growth has started to bear fruit, as large deposits of lithium currently being explored in the country have already attracted a green technology company, Agility South Africa, specializing in the manufacturing of electric vehicles. According to investment analyst Mr. Batanai Matsika, Zimbabwe's mining industry is well positioned to transform the economy.
The issue of electric vehicles is a big opportunity for countries that have the mineral, which is lithium, and we envisage a reshuffling of the importance of minerals, especially when you then consider minerals such as lithium, cobalt and nickel, there's going to be a lot of interest, and definitely the trends that we're seeing is that some companies are trying to position themselves, and this represents a massive opportunity for an economy like Zimbabwe.
A geologist, Mr. Enas Binala, believes with more exploration, the mining industry is the doyen of the economy.
What needs to be done is further exploration. As we all know that Zimbabwe is greatly underexplored. If that's done, more great deposits will be discovered.
With a number of mining greenfield operations taking place around the country, the envisaged $12 billion mining industry is set to become a reality by 2023. Davson Wandira, ZBC News, Harare.
A government has taken over 51% stake in the Cotton Company of Zimbabwe and 74% shareholding in Silo Foods.
In a post-cabinet address this Wednesday, the Minister of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services, Senator Monica Mchangwa, also announced that a consignment of COVID-19 vaccines will arrive next month as the national COVID vaccination program continues.
We will give you details of that report as the bulletin progresses. The integrated national vaccination campaign for the new typhoid conjugate vaccine is now being rolled out in schools across the country. More from Abigail Tembo.
The rollout of the typhoid conjugate vaccine TCV, which is being introduced through a nationwide catch-up vaccination campaign in schools and clinics, will integrate vaccines for polio prevention IPV and human papillomavirus HPV, including vitamin A supplementation into the campaign. A SNAP survey conducted by ZBC News in Harare saw children under the age of 5 receiving the typhoid conjugate and the inactivated polio vaccines, as well as the vitamin A supplement, while those from the age of 5 to 15 were receiving the typhoid conjugate vaccine, which is the latest addition to routine immunization. Girls from 10 years are also receiving the human papillomavirus vaccine, which protects them from cervical cancer. Director Communications and Advocacy in the Ministry of Primary Secondary Education, Mr. Taunga Nandoro, called on parents and guardians to ensure their children get the vaccination.
It is safe, and we've been assured by the Ministry of Health and Child Care that it is just there as a preventive measure for an opportunistic infection called typhoid, which we as the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education is also guarding against, so that our learners do not contract it. If they do contract it, they may lose more learning time, which is something that we are not looking forward to.
In 2018, the World Health Organization recommended that typhoid endemic countries introduce TCVs into routine immunization programs. With support from Vaccine Alliance Gavi, Pakistan became the first country in the world to introduce TCV in 2019 and has now vaccinated more than 20 million children. Liberia followed in April 2021, with Zimbabwe becoming the third country in the world to implement the program. Abigail Tembo, ZBC News.
The United States of America's House of Representatives has admitted that illegal sanctions imposed on Zimbabwe have failed to effect regime change over the past 2 decades.
Political Actors Dialogues, International Relations and the Re-Engagement Committee engaged the United States House of Representatives Foreign Affairs Committee on the impact of sanctions in Africa this Tuesday. Briefing journalists in Harare, Pollard International Relations and Re-Engagement Committee Chairperson Mr. Divine Howe said the engagement was fruitful, with the House of Representatives conceding that the sanctions have failed to achieve their intended goal.
In remarks made at the hearing, Representative Karen Bass seemed to agree, saying sanctions on Zimbabwe, while they were well-meaning, have been used for a very long time and may have lost their effectiveness and were now having a severe impact on innocent citizens, shrunk the economy, result in diminished international funding and donor support, and ultimately affected environmental, health, water, sanitation, education, and infrastructural development programs.
Another Pollard principal, Comrade Patrick Chinamasa, said the engagement with the U.S. House of Representatives is a milestone, considering that the invitation has been extended to those that campaigned for the imposition of illegal sanctions.
For the first time, people who are opposed to sanctions are now being given audience, asked to make submissions. That, to me, is a very important first step. Let me also say that any sanctions which are not authorized by the United Nations Security Council are illegal and in violation of international law and international human rights instruments. And that is what characterizes the sanctions which were imposed against Zimbabwe.
REUPLOAD is a platform for all progressive political parties in Zimbabwe where developmental issues take center stage. Bruce Chawanda, ZBC News, Harare.
Consumers have commended government's move to reverse backdating a value-added tax VAT on rice, which had the potential to cause a spike in the price of the commodity. More from Owen Mandova.
If the backdating of value-added tax on rice was to proceed as directed by the Zimbabwe Revenue Authority ZIMRA, the price of the commodity could have gone beyond the reach of many. However, the decision to reverse the move has been welcomed by a cross-section of consumers.
Tinotenderana nazvo nokuti zvakatooma zvakatotiomera kana iyo itori peche ritotirwadza futi kutotenga kana iyo $2 iyoyo
tizvezviuru mararamiro atiri kuita zvinhu zvakatotiomera
vana isizi raisi kamwe chete pagore asi izvo zvitataka kudya everyday
raisi ngararamba rakadzika price sezvaringori nokuti rikakwira zvinotozvikonzeresa kuti vanhu vanyorwara mudzimba. The
newly established Consumer Protection Commission, which seeks to instill fair practices in the market and protect consumer rights, has also hailed the move.
We are actually very grateful, to the government on this particular gesture. As you are aware, consumers, they've actually been going through a rough patch in terms of trying to make ends meet.
Last year, President Emmerson Mnangagwa launched the Consumer Protection Act, which culminated in the formation of the Commission in line with government's thrust to ensure everyone gets fair market treatment. Owen Mandova, ZBC News, Harare.
Well, that's good news for all of us. Well, rice will definitely go down. That's a welcome move by the government.
Well, yeah, I'm sure for people who cook, I don't cook.
Well, I'm excited. I'm really excited. And I'm sure the rest of Zimbabwe agrees with me.
Now, stories to expect from this bulletin.
Calls for the lifting of sanctions against Zimbabwe grow louder.
The latest call has been...
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. You are still watching the main news. Well, do get in touch with us for more news. You can log on to our website as www.zbcnews.co.zw.
You can also connect with us online on social media at ZBC News Online on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube.
Yes, be sure to tell us if you've been to view the statue of Mbuyane that was unveiled by His Excellency, the President, Comrade Emmerson Mnangagwa. Oscar, have you been?
I did go yesterday. I didn't get a good look because there was a large number of people waiting to take a close look.
Wow, a defining moment in our history.
Speaking of history, a longtime friend of Zimbabwe, the African National Congress, ANC, held a protest against illegal sanctions imposed on Zimbabwe by the United States and the European Union.
ANC party members and Zimbabweans living in South Africa have been protesting outside the U.S. Embassy in Gauteng, calling for the unconditional lifting of illegal sanctions against Zimbabwe.
Our South Africa correspondent Bongani Sizwa gives us that report.
They say they are standing up against sanctions imposed on Zimbabwe and human rights violations against the people of Palestine.
Right? Cancel the sanctions in Zimbabwe. The second one is the Palestine. Stop the killing of the children of Palestine. Britain is with the British. Can Zimbabwe be with the Zimbabweans?
This was a firm call from the South African ruling party, African National Congress, ANC, and other human rights organizations at a solidarity march held at the United States of America Consulate in Sandton, Johannesburg.
The sanctions that are on Zimbabwe are disproportionate and reasonable collective punishment for the citizens of Zimbabwe.
In their message, while handing over the memorandum, organizers said the impact of the illegal sanctions has crippled the Zimbabwe's productive sector and access to fresh line of credit and trade relations.
By giving us sanctions, we are not able to export our platinum, we are not able to export our gold, we are not able to export anything that we are producing in Zimbabwe.
By targeting these individuals and corporations, we are detracting much needed investment into Zimbabwe.
While South Africa continues to condemn United States on Zimbabwe's sanctions, they have also been bold to condemn the recent attacks on the Palestine by Israel.
As I stand outside the U.S. consulate, I'm here to create awareness. I'm here to call for justice.
Meanwhile, Zimbabweans in South Africa have also expressed their concerns.
We have seen them throwing missiles all over Africa. We have seen them going to Iran, going to Iraq, destroying families, destroying women and children. Who is sanctioning them?
organizers of this protest say these sanctions are unjust and are punishing the population of Zimbabwe. Bongani Siziba, ZBC News, Johannesburg.
Back home, freedom fighters associations have endorsed President Emmerson Mnangagwa as the Zanu-PF presidential candidate for the 2023 harmonized elections. Tendai Minengwa reports.
Provincial executive members of freedom fighters associations converged at Harare South Golf Club, where they unanimously endorsed Comrade Emmerson Mnangagwa as the Zanu-PF presidential candidate for 2023.
Isu sema-veterans tawirirana tose hapana kadzika kuti President E.D. Mnangagwa ndiyo candidate yedu ichange yakamiririra Zanu-PF 2023.
The joint veterans of the liberation struggle meeting also saw the freedom fighters delivering Africa Day's solidarity messages in line with major goals of African Union founding fathers to eradicate all forms of colonialism.
As we celebrate Africa Day today, what are the opposition political parties' relevance and importance in the liberated African nations?
This year's theme should take us further as an African people with a strong cultural identity, common heritage, shared values and ethics.
Just like African Union Agenda 2063, which calls for greater collaboration and support for African-led initiatives, the freedom fighters implored progressive Zimbabweans to support the National Development Strategy 1, which seeks to bring the much-needed economic freedom.
The Bulawayo chapter of the Zimbabwe National Liberation War Veterans Association has also endorsed the Zanu-PF candidature of President Emmerson Mnangagwa for the 2023 elections. In an extraordinary Provincial Executive Committee meeting this Wednesday, Chairperson of the Bulawayo chapter of the War Veterans Association, Comrade Sefas Nobe, said the Revolutionary Party is stronger with President Mnangagwa at the helm.
President E.D. Mnangagwa esimindoza njenge-sole candidate yethu eka 2023 presidential elections ezizaba khona.